Every pregnant woman has but one desire: to give birth to a beautiful and healthy child. What happens when there are complications along the way and after 9 months of struggle, she delivers a child with a special need or a disability? What do you do? How do you as a parent manage this situation, and most especially, how do you help this child? These and more are some of the issues we'll be talking about on Community Reports this week. Welcome to the show. I'm Victoria Idowu. When a woman conceives, the 9 months journey is usually the longest period of her life, knowing and waiting earnestly for the arrival of the bundle of joy. The experience for some can be by far the most beautiful, while for some others, the feeling may not be so exhilarating. However the experience is, the feeling of hope and love are all intertwined as the newborn arrives. But then, something happens. The child is born maybe before time and has to be put in an incubator, or then the baby is born with a form of congenital deformity. The pain that follows this experience is heart-wrenching. Different questions begin to flood your minds. Why me? What did I do wrong? And after the grieving, the next question should be, what do I do? How do I take care of this child? How do I make this child a useful member of the society? How do I make this child become independent? According to statistics, 1 out of every 50 children has a disability. The degree may vary from child to child. Worldwide, it is estimated that between 93 million and 150 million children live with a disability, and that's according to the World Health Organization and World Bank. In Nigeria, WHO estimates that 7 million children are living with a disability.
The delivery point in this country is one point where a lot of children are neurologically damaged. Okay, so every time they say maternal mortality something figures are increasing in the country, my own heart gives a skip, because that means that mental health problems for those children who are born under those difficult circumstances significantly increases. Okay, so a mother who cannot push through and we should have early CS intervention, cesarean section intervention, does not have money to afford CS. And she's being pushed from one hospital to another, to Alagbo, to all the traditional birth attendants, and eventually the child is born. That child has an 80% chance of having been neurologically damaged.
Tobiloba is one of those children who was born several years ago with a disability known as cerebral palsy. Today, she's a lawyer and she holds a master's degree in international law from the United Kingdom. She's also a 3-time author and an advocate. Born into a family of 7, Tobiloba knew she was different from a very early age. She could neither stand nor walk as a child.
I didn't grow up knowing I was different. I was raised in a household where difference was celebrated. So even though it was acknowledged, the fact that I couldn't do certain things like my siblings could do them did not stop my parents from treating me just like every other child in the house. And so by the time that I was 5, though, it became more apparent that there were certain things that were just different. Like at age 5, well, all the other girls were beginning to play 10-10. I could not play them, so yeah, I started to really wonder, like, what's up and what's going on here. And thankfully, I have very enlightened parents. So basically, they sat me down and explained, you have a condition called cerebral palsy. When we had you, you were born really early, and you weren't even supposed to survive. And so as a result of all of the trauma that you suffered, there was some damage to the parts of your brain that controls your muscles, and as a result, that's why you're not able to jump and skip rope and play away like everybody else. But hey, it's just your muscles that are impaired, not your intellect. So make up for all the things that your muscles can do with your brain.
This, on one hand, is a success story. Yeah. On the other, a success on the horizon. This is 7-year-old Oluwalonimi, born into the family of 4.
Chocolate or Indomie? Or which one? Hmm? Indomie. 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 Hmm? You put Indomie. Hmm? That one will be okay. Okay. All right.
A story
And the
told by
next
her
one
mother
is great.
will hit you in the very
Hmm?
core of
Why
your
you covering your
heart.
face? Okay. She's a celeb. Before I gave birth to her, I was a bit sick. I had preeclampsia, and that is characterized by swollen feet, swollen hands, urine in the protein in the urine. So I had to have an emergency CS. So she came out at about 26 weeks thereabout, and she weighed 1.2 kg. At birth, she was fine, but she was in the incubator. So while in the incubator, she had apnea, which is a sleep disorder when the child forgets to breathe. So there was this episode that she had it, and unfortunately, the doctor was not available. I think he was on lunch. He was at his lunch break. And I think it was just a period of about 4 minutes, but that was enough time for the brain to be starved with oxygen. As at then, I didn't even know that she had a cerebral palsy. So fast forward 4 months after that, you know, children have milestones, babies have milestones that they should attain. At 4 months, her neck could not, she didn't have neck control. So I told the doctor, and he said, oh, she's premature, so give her some time. So at 8 months, we went back to the hospital for a full test. So we did all the tests, and even though it came out negative that there wasn't really anything wrong with her, based on the physical check, she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy at 8 months.
How did you feel?
I was devastated. I think, just to put it in words, I mean, for every mother, it's a dream to have this fantastic child who would attain all the milestones, who will do this, who will do that. Then the doctor says, oh, this is, your child has this, she won't be able to do this, she won't be able to do that. I mean, that like was very devastating for me. Snow, this is a chick. Okay, let's put this back. How about this? What is this? Dog. Yeah. Now let's put it back. Ah. Yeah. So the first story is Sleeping Beauty. Yes, Nimi. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, there was a king and queen who lived in a great castle in a far country. They had a newborn daughter whom they loved very much. The king sent messengers to all the fairies in the land, inviting them to come to become godmothers to the little princess.
Like every mother, accepting the reality is usually the hardest. Then the next action will be to find a solution or a cure.
I was in denial. The usual, this is not my passion, it's not possible. I didn't want to accept the fact. Then I started going from one church to the other. This must be the devil, this must be an enemy. You have deliverance today, deliverance tomorrow. And at a point when I wasn't getting the desired results, I wasn't looking, what I was looking for was a cure that could just make everything go away. Because to me, it was like a nightmare. And I just wanted to like wake up and find out that everything was supposed to be normal. And so when that didn't happen, I went into depression. I was depressed. I was always asking myself, why me? What have I done? And had questions for God like, what sin is so big that you can't forgive? How could this happen? How could you allow this to happen? At a point, I wasn't going to church because I was like, I hadn't seen so many children with disability in church. They would think maybe I'm just one of God's prodigal, child that didn't deserve God's love, So until eventually one day I was going to a particular church for prayers and I almost had an accident. And that was what, gave me like a brain reset, and I told myself that I'm not going anywhere again. So I decided to just follow my doctor's recommendation, which was to start therapy early. So I focused on her therapy. Yeah, I prayed for her. I went to church, but I accepted the fact that, oh, she has cerebral palsy. I have not stopped believing that God can heal her, though, but I've moved on.
A lot of men tend to walk away from a situation like that because it's costly, quite expensive to manage. If you really want to buy the medication and go, and then they have what we call comorbidities. Cerebral palsy itself is not a condition that you can say worsens or deteriorates. You have it, you have it. You can't move your hand, you can move your hand. Yes, it might get stiffer by the day, but the reality is the comorbidities will be, for instance, a child that is unable to move the hands, lying on a bed, mosquitoes coming, is unable to do that basic things of driving them out. So malaria is going to be more common. If the child tends to lie on the chest, like my child had to do for maybe the first until about 14 years when he had a major surgery, from like 8, the most convenient position was to lie on his chest. Now, and then he's drooling. So whether you put a fan or an AC on, if you don't change the towel regularly, and how regularly can you do it, is that he ends up with frequent bouts of pneumonia. Okay, so you just see funny, they're going to hospital, not because of CP.
Disabilities vary, but the common ones are cerebral palsy, autism, Down syndrome, intellectual and physical disabilities, which creates challenges with thinking, behavior, and skill development.
Yeah, relax yourself. Drop your legs down.
There are certain forms of therapy required for managing a disability.
Therapy is not a cure. So therapy is not curative. Therapy is management. So what therapy does is that it ensures that the physical condition of the child does not deteriorate. Because their physical condition deteriorates, then health deteriorates, right? So that's what therapy does. Therapy is not going to cure cerebral palsy, let's be very clear. It just ensures that the physical condition of the child does not deteriorate. Now, depending on the severity of the condition and the needs, the therapies will vary. So, but let me stick to what I know, me, right? So in my childhood, there were basically 2 therapies that were key for me. They were physiotherapy and occupational therapy. I was very lucky because I've always had speech. I've always been able to talk and talk very clearly. So I didn't require speech therapy, but I required extensive, and when I say extensive, I mean serious extensive levels of physiotherapy and occupational therapy to get to a point where I could be ambulant, which is I could move around.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Used within a coordinated and comprehensive treatment plan, therapy plays a vital role in managing the physical impairment while optimizing mobility.
Give me 5. Yeah, come on, give me 5. Should I switch off the TV? Should I switch it off?
Physical therapy basically works on what I like to call your gross motor skills. So your big muscles, your legs, the ability to jump and walk and move your legs. Basically, it's physical therapy. Physical therapy works on that. Things like being able to control your trunk, that's your ability to sit. That's all physical therapy. Now, occupational therapy works more with your hands. So we call that fine motor skills. So the ability to, the things we take for granted, the ability to do basic, activities of daily living. The fact that you're able to dress yourself, you're able to put on your shirt, button your shirt, pull down your trousers, wear it back. Those are activities that require the use of your hands, and occupational therapy helps you to be able to do that. Occupational therapy also sometimes helps with, proper swallowing techniques, because a lot of children with cerebral palsy, me inclusive, sometimes struggle with how to swallow properly. So occupational therapy also helps with things like pencil grip. If a child is going to be able to write, they have to be able to grip a pencil, which means that they have to be able to grip a pencil in a certain way. and for writing to happen. All of that is a function of extensive occupational therapy. And because a lot of children with cerebral palsy will favor one side of their body, no matter somehow, with that favor your right, you favor your left. In my case, I favored my right, so I didn't use my left at all. I was still just in a friend of mine that this was the, and right, it's so easy for me to still do, this was the status quo of my left hand. It just would be this way. And I was fine with it. Like, I didn't have a problem with it just being this way, and I could just do everything else with this one hand that I was fine with using. But with occupational therapy, now I use my left hand to like lift stuff. I type 2 hands. I know, I'm just gonna take out a few more.
Tobiloba Ajayi, who is physically and mentally able to do things independently, attributes her independence to constant therapy that she received as a child.
Yeah, you're listening according to the wrong sign. So I have it. Okay, so I'm going to now. This is the fun part of when I'm wearing my shoes, right? So I have to lift my legs into the shoes, and then slide. If my sister was here, she'd just bend down and fix it. She can't. That's not why it takes me that long. So my shoes, so she just bends down and fix it. And then my mom would be like, "Auntie, lace your shoes." So you first do align the laces, and you go on in, pull. And see how I overcompensate for my left hand? Okay. Because I don't want to use my left hand to place my shoes, so I'll then find. Trust me, it takes a while, but I do find it. Because I'm overcompensating again. So that you guys realize that it's not that easy to live this hippie life. It's crazy. Immediately I became an adult, I stopped buying lace shoes. And then my mom goes, this one goes back in here. And this one comes this way.
So you use your right hand more?
I still do. Even after all the hard work they put into getting me to use my left hand. I became an adult, I just scrapped all those things. Nah, don't kill me, man. This one goes this way. See? So, see why I gave up on lace shoes? I gave up. Because this is what I used to do every day in primary school. Work. So I would literally sweat to put on my shoes in the morning. And my mom would be like, yeah, you sweat every morning.
Physical therapy treatment helps to increase one's strength, flexibility, motor development, and mobility.
We don't have a thing that could be described as a one-shoe-fit-all. Every child has a patterned modality and intervention for them. We don't say that because this is a particular child's condition, then it's the same thing we do for everybody. No. We tailor the management of each child based on the specific needs of that child.
Right leg down. Wrap it down.
It is beneficial to patients treating conditions such as muscle tightness, range of motion limitations, and sensory impairment.
Yeah, push it down. Yeah, push it more. And push.
Because of the setting that we are, the cultural background, a child that is just been delivered and the first time they are hearing that the child is having a medical condition called cerebral palsy, they would have consulted different means. like going to religious and organizations, even going to traditional center, thinking that it's an evil spirit that is affecting the family. So most of the time, they are spent more of the money that is necessary for them to have that is expected to be used, so that by the time they are now channeling their resources to the medical aspect, they have run out of cash. So those are few of the challenges that.
It is the most important form of therapy. It helps with these issues by assisting children with balance, posture, crawling, walking, and muscle strength exercise. At this home, there are over 20 children here, the Center for Destitute Empowerment International. The question here is, how can children like this achieve independence? At some of these homes who do not have the financial capability to get the therapists needed, they work with what they can have. The children are also taught to play games to build team spirit. A success story from a situation that looks bleak from the outset usually gives hope. Apart from Tobiloba, who brings hope to this ability, Oluwalonimi is well on the way to achieving success and independence. With her limbs not properly formed, she struts her way around, helping out in ways that she can. At the moment, she is a 300-level biology student at Federal College of Education in Oyo State. She has a dream of becoming a medical doctor.
I stayed here for 15 years. My primary education was in this place, and my secondary education is Malad International College. I went to university, that is Federal College of Education, Oyo. I'm now going to 300 level.
For homes like this with several needs, to be able to share more success stories will require help from the government, Nigerians, and non-governmental organizations.
The barriers are so many. Number one, environment. Children with special needs, especially those on wheelchair, need a larger environment, which we don't have here. And we're looking unto God to give us one. Two, special teachers are not readily available, who learn the skill of sign language and other things. Three, those who study things about disability are not readily available also to give counseling and advice to them. So the whole job lies heavily on us, because I am trained in the field. Then, getting the material for them at times could be challenging. I remember when somebody brought me material from Italy. I slept overnight at Moe camp because of go slow. So getting the material has been so difficult, but now as we are progressing, I'm making more contact with professionals. We're getting the material now. And I have a lot of professional network that can really come in now.
And this is where the government comes in.
There's just so much, honestly, I don't know where they can start for. But maybe at least let's start with the support for a neuropsychiatric hospital in Oshodi, for instance, and then talk about it, encourage parents to go there. You know, if there's complication at birth at first, the first thing a mother needs to do is now take that child back to the hospital and be doing constant follow-up. I know in developed countries, developmental milestone where a child is checked on a constant basis to know what he should be doing and what he's doing and what they can do to help this child achieve the goals. So the government needs to do a lot with that.
There should be more involvement of the government so that we are not leaving these homes to these people alone, because sometimes there's a knowledge gap and they need to know. So for individuals coming to help them, they're like, what do you really want to do with them? So probably maybe you have your own ulterior motive, because some people really had, or some people have. So they're also being careful, not like we are blaming them. They're also being careful to really open up to people that probably just want to use them to get funds and divert the funds. So to get the trust of the home is also a kind of challenge.
And well, that's our stop for today. It's been quite an emotional show for me. No child is a waste is what I'm taking away from this show today. So seek help, speak up, and don't suffer alone. That's Community Report this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Victoria Ido. By the end of today, this show will be on our YouTube channel, so please watch it again. I would also be expecting to hear from you via my Twitter handle at Victoria Ido. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you.